Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Astrology Victoria. Today, with your host Tatiana, also broadcasting for ANN Archetypal News Network. And today, I'm going to bring you the astro weather for the first half of the month of June. And as you very well know, um, sometimes it's more of a stream of consciousness, and other times I get very, very technical. Today, I'm feeling like tuning in a lot into stream of consciousness. Obviously, we will be looking at the charts to understand what's going on, but I have been feeling called to share some readings, information, and insights. Um, you know that I provide astrology as a more holistic tool of understanding self, the psyche, the collective. And in the end, it's all about you and your universe and each person's universe. I'm just here to give you some little prompts, however that lands for you or resonates with you. This is the astrology of June 1st to June 15th. We have a few little highlights to point out, which is the conjunction of Jupiter to the North Node, which is we will be talking about, is quite important, and it's happening right at the beginning of the month. We will have the full moon in Sagittarius, June 3rd, and a entry of Venus into Leo, June 5th. And we'll have Pluto starting, well, Pluto started already retrograding, but it will move back into Capricorn. And this will be significant at a global scale. As you all know, Pluto and all the outer planets, or the transcendental planets, the outer planets, move the collective psyche and the collective energies. And it will be very interesting to see how that remnants of the Capricorn, dismantling of the shadow of Capricorn and moving forward, will occur in this next few months before Pluto moves back into Aquarius, when it begins its direct motion in October 10th, I believe. So for these months, we're going to see Pluto again in Capricorn. And we'll talk about this a little bit, what it means. And we'll have also the entry of Mercury in Gemini. So for now, we do still have a heavy influence of the planets that are in Taurus. And let's look at the charts so we can better understand what is going on. And I will read some messages for you. We still have a month that has a lot of tension. As you can see, we are having the conjunction of Jupiter to the North Node, and this still is in the active square to Pluto. And this square will also be touching Venus during the first half of the month. And we will be looking at themes of value, self-worth, worth, value, and money. Again, money, as you know, it's a representative of value, but it in essence is the feminine, the yin, what we value, our worth. This is kind of a theme that has been kind of coming back a lot in these past times, and because of where the nodal axis is right now, and all the shifts and shakings of the fundamentals or the foundations of what we value. And I keep talking about this time and again because this is now, it's really digging it out, and the themes of power as well, and personal empowerment. So a lot of that comes up with these energies. Now we do have, and I want to stress and kind of focus on the trine. So not so much on the crisis, because we know the crisis we're all in. There's a lot of economic and financial destabilization. There's a lot of crisis happening also in the world. But in our inner world, the way to basically when we have the Taurus energy very active, we are asked also to connect to matter, to obviously our resources and our survival. Jupiter, we talked about this in last video. As Jupiter enters into Taurus, it will bring or highlight opportunities in the area of life where you have your Taurus house, to reevaluate your resources. How are you getting resourced in that area of life? For some, it's in the work area. For some, it's in relationships. For some, it's in their connection to groups. For some, it's in relationship to their own bodies and their health. For some, is the home. So it just doesn't matter where it is. It's about where you're putting the value and what new resources can come into your life if you open up to releasing the old beliefs around value. On this note, I would like to read a passage of this beautiful book called Making Love to God. It's a channeled book by Tina Spalding, who is channeling the Ananda consciousness. And again, woo alert, I'm telling you today is a lot of stream of consciousness and what I feel called to share. So around the theme of value, I'm going to read you a little passage. The illusion of wealth cripples you and makes you waste your valuable time on wasteful and useless objects and activities. We have been asking our dear one, Tina, to take us to the beach. So Tina is the author. To take us to the beach so we can immerse ourselves in the environment and see it through her eyes. We are astounded by the beauty and the magnificence of the experience she can have. And we have asked her how the humans can be unhappy when they have such amazing experiences of wind, water, sparkling sunlight, and smells of all kinds. We are in awe of this physical existence you have, yet you do not see truly what it is. It all fades behind the complaints or the small and pathetic concerns of the ego. Dear ones, go outside and look at the wonder of a tree and truly see its magnificence. Watch some birds and some flowers and stop your mind for a few minutes to grasp the wonder of them. This is what spiritual success is. The true appreciation of the beauty of the now. Not the car you are saving for or the relationship you think will save you from yourself. If you are truly able to grasp that of which you are hear us speak, then you have arrived, and your spiritual guides will applaud as they experience you just being. The actions you are always taking with some future goal in mind are often a waste of time. First, this is because you have deep and powerful belief systems that go against what you are doing. We will give you an example. Perhaps you wish to become financially successful and you are willing to work hard to that end. You are always trying to come up with a new idea, a new plan to reach that success. But deep inside, you believe in lack, in the fear of poverty. So you are always looking at the poor, revolted, hoping that you will not end up there. You are focused on poverty, even though your actions are focused on receiving more money. So you will not be able to create the wealth you desire. You may have some small gains because of the hard work, but they will never feel like enough. You will always feel on the edge of losing it all. This is what we are talking about. If you're able to be with yourself, relax, and enjoy what is all around you and what you have in peace, you will be guided to the next best thing for your true success. And you will have a nice time of it. Always. We promise you. We say this so that you do not feel that there is an endless list of things you must do to satisfy us in this journey. We know we have given you many suggestions for changes, but if you really look at them, they are really not actions so much as releasing negative blocks and opening to a simpler, quieter, and more beautiful life that supports the quiet voice of spirit and gives it some space to speak. This is how we wish for you to look at this path. This is not a path of achievement, but a path of release. This will take you further and quickly too. There is no destination as such. What we are trying to get to you is get in touch with what is already there, already in you. So that is our recommendation. Relax. Begin to take some time and enjoy the day. Enjoy each other and set some different goals than the ones you have been taught. The goal tomorrow could be to relax, to surrender, to have no agenda for the entire day, to read in bed all day, to nap, or even to make love all day, if that is your desire. We are suggesting a total revamp of what you are doing into what you are being. This is all, and we think this is a lot, don't you? We are always challenging you with loving prescriptions. So this was a kind of a big passage. The reason I brought it up, it's because especially because we're going through these shifts and changes, and more in particularly as Venus begins to square the nodes and be in opposition to Pluto. We know that this is a very tense moment where all we value is being questioned. That's why financial systems are crumbling. That's why people are losing what they believed valuable. And what I read is exactly the prescription for how to get back in tune and in touch with that is truly, truly in your soul. This is sponsored by Neptune trining Venus. And this is when the energy, when you come into contact with the yin principle, the principle of receptivity and of listening, all solutions come. The flow just happens. Venus is going to be this first week of June, before it enters Leo, it's going to have that last little ask of please take care of what you're feeling, your emotions, your internal home. This is Cancer, right? As Venus moves through the anaretic degree, the 29th degree, this is kind of like, this is the last ask almost, I would say, like, get in tune with what you're feeling. Get in tune with the deepest needs and desires of your soul. If you need rest, rest. What's happening here is obviously there's a square to the Taurus energy. So we might either feel like that we're too lazy. That could be one thing, that to take it to extremes. So the idea is not to take it to extremes. Tuning in and relaxing doesn't mean being completely lazy, overindulgent, and having no action or no goals. It just means understanding the body and its messages, and understanding where true value comes from. And with the trine to Neptune, we might feel very connected to something a little bit more liminal, more out there. And it's a beautiful time to explore that connection to yourself through artistic methods or means. And artistic means is anything from movement to something creative, to using your voice, to writing some nice words, like anything that connects you to something that it's not left brain, that is not the thinking mind, the logical mind, the mind that has everything figured out, but that other part of the mind, the right side brain, that says, I have nothing figured out, and I'm just going to give into an experience. And when you give into an experience, especially if it's an experience that is very enjoyable and that feels good to you, that experience might take you to the next thing, that it's going to bring you more closer to yourself, to who you truly are. And in this very when we're having these squares and especially to the nodes, and we talked about this last time. Pluto needs to be like integrated between the past and the future. And now with Jupiter conjuncting the North Node, this is like a big push. Where is your future going to? And the future you're going to isn't in the future, it's in the present. That is the whole point. It's not somewhere in the future. It's not in an idea or a goal. And it's certainly not in the ideals we had of what life should be. The old way of thinking is what's being completely dismantled, the old way of thinking. And when Pluto moves back into Capricorn, we might have, again, those pushes, the last remnants of the parental, societal, or institutional power over structures showing why they need to go. The power over, basically the need to control reality and control everything is what's being dismantled, especially control others, control resources. This is again part of those squares. It's like how we're trying to control everything, control the resources, control people. It's this, we need to start really getting it. There's nothing in the future. The future is not real even. Everything is just here right now. There's nothing else but this exact moment where you and I are connecting. Right now, if I'm on your screen and you are wherever you are, look around you. Feel into your body, your existence, your human existence, and breathe. Look what happened to me yesterday. Not paying attention to my body. My body's sending me messages. I cut my finger. Left hand. This is the feminine. Little message. Am I listening? Am I listening? Am I still trying to do too much? To prove something, or get scared of how am I gonna get my resources? How am I gonna make money? How, like, is that still there? And if that is you, still trying to fix a problem with the the old thinking, we're not really moving forward. And this is why this square or this crisis might feel very difficult. The other thing is that as we project, whenever we have oppositions, especially, and I'm going to say that especially for people with placements in these degrees, in the late degrees of Cancer, Capricorn, Aries, and Libra, and the early degrees of Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, and Scorpio. So if you have any placements there, this whole crisis is speaking to you. So I'll repeat, last degrees of Cancer, Capricorn, Libra, and Aries. Last degrees of those signs. If you have any planets, especially personal planets like the sun, the moon, Venus, Mars, you will feel this as in a crisis mode. You're being put through a little test. Same if you have the first degrees of Aquarius, Leo, a Scorpio, and Taurus. Why? Because this Pluto is really pushing that out of us. Pushing it out. So yeah, stay present. Connect to your emotions and your body. Especially this first week of June. There are immense gifts as well to be had. Let's not forget that we're having, like I said, the trine to Neptune and a little bit of snippet of the Archetypal Universe by Ren Butler. A sweet and sensitive nature, endearing gentleness and grace, spiritual ideals in love and friendship, feelings of melted ecstasy and devotion for the beloved. Compassion, enjoyment in helping others, a delicate and seamless beauty, exquisite refinement, ethereal charm, the ideal of beauty for beauty's sake, romantic bliss, feelings of whimsy and reverie, beautiful dreaming, delicious unthinking romance, sweet intoxication. Okay. So you see how as we're shifting from the more difficult reality, there is always a space elsewhere that allows us to dream. That's why using the right brain and not the left brain, it's almost a prescription at this moment. If you use that and you align with the trines, then what happens is the squares, which are the challenging aspects where we can get a little bit either too complacent, too lazy in the case of Venus, or too worried as well about needing to control how we get our resources. If that is filled with worry and anxiety, or like a lack of trust in the process, which Jupiter will bring also great insight into what is possible, into possibility. So yes, there is action we need to take action, but not at the expense of the body, not at the expense of the soul, not at the expense of joy and pleasure. So you see, it is the fine tuning of the yin and the yang energies, which are this Venus and Mars. And Pluto went through the Mars already. Now it's squaring, it's opposing Venus. So what will be brought a little bit in the month of June is this idea that we can have both. We can be in action, in service, we can be going for our goals, and at the same time we can be take time out, be receptive, and specifically listen to your heart and your heart's desires, and to your body. If your body speaks, like in terms of injuries or things like that, listen to it. It's telling you something. It's telling you something about yourself that has not been addressed. So once it gets to the extreme of getting an illness or an injury, ask yourself why. Why is this coming up for me right now? And it's the time to stop the blame game of the outside world is here to get me, and everything that is happening outside, it's all against me, or people are against me. This is when projections can come and we can attract people, especially if you have planets in this area of your chart, the last degrees of Cancers and Leos. Remember, in this time, we could be attracting situations that put us in immense tension. It could be power dynamics that come up. It would be people that show us our shadow really deeply, our shadow regarding our beliefs around value, or well, anything that is the shadow, the shadow of relationships. It could be also brought up by that. Toxic relationships could come up with that as well. And the toxicity is only showing us what needs to be purged and removed. That's Pluto's job, to purge and remove. So if we're smart humans and we use our ability to see that projections and situations that we attract and people that we attract are not really outside ourselves, but are really, really the mirrors of ourselves, and are really conscious of going in what this person or this situation is showing me, then we make huge leaps and bounds in those areas. So there, I said it. Those areas are heavily, heavily activated right now, and trust the beauty of the process. Neptune is very active. Do some therapeutic work with art. That is my recommendation. We also have a sextile of Saturn to Jupiter, and whenever we have Jupiter and Saturn speaking to each other, that means that there is the capacity to bring whatever is large and huge into a structure that is realistic. And this is a sextile, which means it's something we need to kind of go for. It's not just happening. The trine is happening, and we might feel the natural connection to the beauty and the divine just when we're just breathing and walking around, and we'll see everything as beautiful. That is kind of a given. The sextile is something we need to look for. So how are we anchoring? And again, we said the Saturn in Pisces. How are we anchoring our deepest connections to what is? So if we are actively engaged in connecting to what is for uh our highest expression in this lifetime, and our service, our true service, and we connect to the body and really understand what the body's telling us. And this is also by ingesting good foods, but by noticing what really is not good for us. If anything is not good, either physically, mentally, or emotionally for us, look at those things and trust that there's something you can do about it that will be given by these opportunities that are brought by this Jupiter in Taurus. The new resourcing for health, resourcing for money, resourcing for more happiness, resourcing for different kinds of abundance. Just keep looking for that. And Jupiter obviously is going to be here for a year, but as it conjuncts the North Node, it is an evolutionary push. So if you're not moving with it, you're resisting it, and then the suffering just increases. So let's just not let that be. And this is going to be these configurations are going to be active during the full moon in Sagittarius, right? And during this full moon, we might be able to see more of those themes that they're brought to light. What are those themes? Work with them. Now, when Venus enters Leo, there is a little bit of a shift of energy from that Cancer need to recharge, resource, get into the feelings. And there might be a little bit more of like, come on, let's have some fun. Venus in Leo likes it, bling bling, likes the fun. And it also wants to address the fact that fun and joy and self-expression comes also with the connection to the heart. The heart. Leo rules the heart. And if we're not connected to heart, what are we connected to? We're then connected to outside structures. And Venus will want some playfulness and some self-expression. It's about me looking for something that that fuels me creatively. It could be because it's Leo, but also who am I? And yes, Leo rules, the sun is the ruler of Leo right now. Leo is ruled by the sun, which in astrology, as you know, is the essence, the self, the highest expression of self is the sun. And it could be also seen as the ego self, which is the personality self, right? But the personality, it can be both, is the alignment to the personality self. Let me say that again. Is the alignment to the personality self. The ego is not a bad thing. The ego is what keeps us alive in this world and what keeps the desire to move forward and create and be creative humans. The alignment of soul with personality self, with understanding who you are as a personality. As a soul, we are soul beings divinely connected to all that is. But as personalities embodied in these bodies, we have specific traits. That's why you have an astrology chart, a map that makes you unique. That's what we're trying to get to here, to that uniqueness of who you are as a personality self, and make sure you can be seen as such. Now, be careful that doesn't become the focus. Then you become too much of self-absorption, and this is when we need to be careful when we have these squares, especially when the signs these planets are in are highlighting that need for self-expression, that the self does not overpower the other either. So it's how can I be myself within the context of the collective without thinking that I'm such the shit that nothing else is valuable, right? It's accepting self as valuable as everything else and recognizing who you are as a personality. What are the things that you specifically like to do, like to be, like to enjoy? Make your little lists around that. And then you can be more clear of where you're heading. And Mars in Leo will want to try to go for what rewards the self or the ego, right? The ego self. And that is totally fine, provided it is aligned with the will, the Neptune will. This will is the will of the divine, is my will. Therefore, you are in right relationship with your environment, and then you go for what you want. Very challenging times because we are deconstructing a whole matrix, a whole societal matrix of what we should do, what we should be, and the beliefs we've had. And Jupiter, because Jupiter also rules our what meaning is ruled by Jupiter. Why do you move in life? Why do you activate Mars? Mars moves for something, but why? Because you need meaning. There has to be a meaning, but if the meaning is a dogmatic, determined meaning that it's discards that other people have different meanings, then we enter in a power dynamic of my truth and my meaning is the right meaning. And that's what we want to avoid during this period of time, because this might tend to happen, that our meaning is more prominent or more valuable, and therefore we're gonna, or we could also overshoot the mark as well. We might think that we can achieve much more than we can actually physically do. And this is where Venus comes into play and says, if you have really big dreams and big goals for yourself, make sure you do them steadily, like slow and steady, like this activate the Saturn Jupiter sextile. Yes, but steady. Do it right. Do it slowly. Don't rush into things just because that's what you want right now. And I know you might get very passionate about certain things, especially relationships. You could be starting a new relationship and there's this passion, and sometimes when we have so much passion, we tend to forget the more realistic implications of other things that are important to look at, like even red flags, right? And at this time with Pluto opposing Venus, I would look for red flags and for patterns that repeat. Again, if that is the case, if that is your case, patterns that repeat around manipulation, jealousy, the needing to control another person, or relationships that are extremely codependent or controlling. This is a good time to take a good stock of that and release that and find your own value, your own self, so you can share your value and yourself with another. And then you find appreciation and connection, which is sponsored by Venus, Neptune. You see, it's both things are at the same time, and that's the beauty of the psyche and these movements, is that everything is shown and everything is a challenge, and at the same time there's always an opportunity. There's never not an opportunity to look at what could make us have a much better life and enjoyment of existence. And this is kind of what this will be very highlighted and brought up. So yeah, beware with overindulgence. Absolutely, overindulgence, it's a must. So yes to relaxing, not so much to overindulgence, because then you lose the impetus to go forward. Now we have the by June 11th, we're going to have Pluto retrograding back into Capricorn and Mercury entering Gemini. This Neptune sextile Pluto as well that is active, which also relates to how we are transforming at that spiritual level. And that has been like a very long sextile for the whole of last year. So everything that is happening for you is happening for you. Everything that is happening to you is happening for you. That's what's coming. Everything that's happening to you is happening for you. As Pluto retrogrades into Capricorn until the month of October, well, what happens November, because it will move back into Aquarius in 2024. But while it's still in Capricorn, we will see again power dynamics. What are we attached to? The old world, the old system. We might see this in the world as the world trying to control again the financial system. You will see maybe governments and institutions trying to pass laws and things again to try to control society. At a more personal level, there could be our own needs to control life. I say life because everything is relationship. And we control the garden, we control the flowers, we control the trees, we control the clouds, we control climate, we want to control our partners, we want to be in control of everything. You know, how about for once we just release that control and allow the flow of life to do what it does? And once we release ourselves from the need to control and where we're being controlling, especially trying to get ahead, that idea, exactly going back to what I read in the beginning, that kind of rat race, we need to get ahead. We're achieving things, the need to achieve, right? That's the Capricorn. We need to achieve, 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 achieve. What for? Where is success? Is the question. If your success is only in achieving and achieving some future goal, then we're completely out of the spiritual success, which is the right now. If we're still caught in dynamics of time, meaning there's a future and a past, and in the future, when I get that, then we're ignoring the transformational energies that are wanting to push us into a very different way of experiencing reality, which is much more connected to the intuitive self, and the intuitive self will guide you every single step. I feel that I say this so much in these videos, because if that's not getting to you and you're still not releasing those layers, they will keep coming up. Remember that once we release a layer, it just gets released. So they will be coming up again for those who have not seen it, who are still needing to control, who are still in the should, must, need to for others. You should, you need, you must. Whenever we are in that languaging, we are still controlling. We are still wanting to control reality. As much as we can be all fabulous humans, we still have all these patterns. Humanity has that pattern. We're moving beyond. Okay, I think I've said enough. Today I feel there was a lot of like a stream of consciousness. There's many other things I could have touched upon. I'm sure there's things that I'm missing. Well, obviously, Mercury entering Gemini, let's just not forget that, is going to bring a little bit of, in the second half of the month, we'll talk more about it, but the energy will shift to a lot of dynamic thinking, talking, we might have a lot of ideas coming to us. Also the immense capacity, especially with this trine to Pluto, there might be an immense capacity to precisely look at these patterns. People are going to go, oh, we can talk about it. Also with Mercury and Gemini, there might be exposure, a lot of exposure, and it will just flow, social media, news, people, blogs, things. There might be a lot of exposure of that Capricorn energy, that, and it could be an exposure that it's not necessarily like bad. It could be like, oh, I see now. It's more like a realization of things that we can talk about. And when we talk about these things, what we see, what we notice, when we do it at a personal level, and we talk about these things, then they just come to the light and then they get released. That's what therapy is about, I guess, but it's part of it. And you don't have to necessarily have a therapist. Even just journaling or going deep into your own mind and your needs to release where you have been in, where are your control mechanisms, especially controls of others, or need to achieve things, and you use this time to talk about it or journal about it or speak about it, then that's when the true transformation happens, and you will have a much more strengthened mental capacity to see another level of mind. Our thoughts are what create absolutely everything. So if we can look at our thoughts, we can change our whole reality. And I'll say that every single time. Okay. Woo, this was a lot of stream of consciousness. I need to stop now, and I love you all. I will see you in the next video, and we're moving through. This is going to be a much more slow time, at least for the next week. You might feel like it's a bit slower before it picks up a little bit of a pace in the second week of June. Take some time out, especially if you're being reminded to take time out. Blessings. Love you.